place on Earth except the textbooks. Now, Charles Darwin didn't like the round numbers. He said that the Wealdian deposits in England were 306,662,400 years old. How he knows that is anybody's guess. But all over the world, this petrified trees like this one are found standing up, connecting different rock layers. Here we've been teaching the kids for years these layers are different ages, and yet thousands of these petrified trees have been found in the vertical position. Now, I taught earth science for a long time. I'm telling you folks, it's just not common sense to say the layers are different ages if you have a petrified tree standing up, connecting them all. Let me get my hyperlink to work here. Oh, there it is. There are thousands of these. They have a brochure you can get for $2. It contains 30 color pictures of petrified trees standing up, running through many layers of strata. So if somebody tells you the layers are different ages, I say, I'm sorry, I simply disagree. The way science is supposed to work, you get a theory, and then somebody says, hey, here's my evidence for the theory or against the theory. All right? There is ample evidence against the theory that the layers are different ages. This has been known for centuries, that petrified trees exist in the vertical position, connecting layers that are supposedly millions of years different in age. So, I disagree when somebody says the Earth and the layers are different ages. Now, this is, though, what all of the evolution theory is based on. This geologic column simply does not exist. It's one of the lies in the textbooks. 80 to 85% of Earth's surface does not even have 3 geologic periods appearing in correct consecutive order. It becomes an overall exercise of gargantuan special pleading and imagination for the evolutionary uniformitarian paradigm to maintain there ever were geologic periods. The whole thing is baloney. Even though this geologic column does not exist, that's what changed people's worldview back in the early 1800s. People began to doubt the creation view of history, because that's what was commonly taught in the early 1800s, and they began to believe the Earth is millions of years old. This teaching of the geologic column especially affected a young theology major who just graduated from Bible college to be a preacher. His name was Charles Darwin. Darwin graduated from Bible college to be a pastor in the Church of England. He sailed around on board the Beagle for 5 years, and he collected bugs. While he was sailing around, he brought some books with him to read. He brought Charles Lyell's book that talked about the geologic column, and that's the book that destroyed his faith. It changed his life forever. Darwin later wrote to his friend and said, disbelief crept over me on a very slow rate, but at last complete, I felt no distress. He slowly lost his faith in the Bible. As Darwin sailed around the world, he came to these islands called the Galapagos Islands. There he noticed there were 14 varieties of finches. He shot many, many birds. Darwin shot an awful lot of birds. He didn't like birds because he liked worms. He thought it was kind of mean for the bird to eat the worm. So he shot a lot of birds and stuffed them and collected them. Had a huge collection of stuffed birds. And the ultimate environmentalist of his day. Darwin looked at all these birds and said, you know what, I think these 14 varieties of finches had a common ancestor. I bet you're right, Charlie. It was a bird. Well, the Grants went over there and studied them for 20 years. And they found out during wet years and dry years, the beaks get thicker during dry years and thinner during wet years. Notice this, by 1/10 of 1 millimeter. 1/10 of a millimeter difference in average beak thickness from wet years to dry years. Okay. That's the evidence that we all came from a rock 4.6 billion years ago. Darwin then wrote in his book, after studying these birds and other things around the world, he said, you know, maybe these 14 kinds of birds had a common ancestor, and that proves that birds are related to bananas. You say, oh, he didn't say that. He certainly did. Page 170, it's a truly wonderful fact that all animals and all plants throughout all time and space should be related to each other. Just because you see 14 kinds of birds, that doesn't prove birds and bananas are related, for heaven's sake, okay? Charlie observed what is sometimes called microevolution. I object to the term. I don't think they should use it, but they do, so I'm going to explain it, okay? Microevolution tells us you can see a variety in the dog kind. Dogs produce a whole variety of offspring. This is observable, it is scientific, it is scriptural, it's just a plain fact, okay? It happens. Nobody with half a brain would question that. The question is, does it go any farther than that? You may get a big dog or a little dog, but you will get a dog every single time. And it could very well be that the dog, the wolf, and the coyote had a common ancestor. Nobody would argue with that, even though they're 3 totally separate species. I have 5-year-olds do this all the time in the audience. I say, okay, kid, here's a dog, a wolf, a coyote, and a banana. Which one is not like the others? Just about without exception, they can figure it out, okay? It's the banana. National Geographic says, the evolution of dogs, yes, wolf to wolf. Nobody is arguing with that, but that's not really evolution. The Bible says they're going to bring forth after their kind. So the question is, can they bring forth? And the dog and the wolf can mate and bring forth. They're the same kind. The dog and a banana cannot. They are not the same kind, okay? This word evolution has 6 meanings, and if you're going to discuss evolution, it's extremely important you define what you're talking about. The first meaning of the word is cosmic evolution, the origin of time, space, matter. Before you can have a coherent theory of evolution, you have to have something that explains where did time, space, and matter come from. They all exist. They seem to be a continuum. You can't have one without the other. If you had matter but no space, where would you put it? If you had matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You have to have time, space, matter simultaneously. The Bible explains that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth. Matter. 10 words. I have to just simply take by faith, God did this. The evolutionist believes they just happened. They have the exact same problem the creationists have. See, that's why I say both creation and evolution are religious. You have to believe in this one. Secondly, we have what's called chemical evolution. I've never had an evolutionist discuss this one, or even address the topic. But if the Big Bang Theory says, well, the Big Bang produced hydrogen and maybe some helium, how did we get all these other elements? You want me to believe that uranium evolved from hydrogen? Because, oh yeah, it happens in fusion in stars. You can't fuse past iron. And even if you could, you still got a serious chicken and an egg problem. Which came first? The stars to make the elements, or the elements to make the stars? You got a real serious chicken and egg problem here. Thirdly, plus it's not observed. It's purely theoretical. They can believe that if they want, which is my point. This is a religion that it happened. It's not science. Thirdly, we'd have to have stellar evolution. The stars would have to evolve. We never see stars forming. We see a few spots getting brighter, and they right away say, oh wow, star forming. Oh, duh. Freshman law student could tear that one apart. You see a spot getting brighter. It could be dust is clearing in front of a star already existing. It could be a supernova getting ready to happen. The stars do blow up, you know, and they get brighter before that happens. And there are all kinds of laws, like Boyle's gas law, that would prevent a star from forming from a dust cloud. There's no scientific physical evidence of how this can happen, but they have to have it happen. After all, there's enough stars out there that we know about that everybody on Earth can own about 11 trillion of them to yourself. That's the current estimate. That's of last year. So how did the stars all get there? Fourthly, there's going to have to be organic evolution. Somehow life has to start from non-living material. The evolutionist is still stuck 200 years behind the time, believing in what's called spontaneous generation. They may give it a fancier name now, but it's still the same thing. Life from non-living material. How did it happen? You can believe anything you want to believe, but I want to see scientific evidence. One guy said, well, what if scientists produce life in the laboratory someday? I said, well, they're nowhere close, first of all. And if a bunch of intelligent scientists get together and produce life, then that would prove it takes intelligence to make life, which is what I've been saying all along. It would prove creation, not evolution. Fifthly, we have what's called macroevolution. This is where an animal changes from one kind into another. Nobody's ever seen that. Lastly, we have what's called microevolution. And again, I object to the term, but they use it. So, this one happens. The first 5 are purely religious. And if you want to believe those, that's fine. Honestly, I don't care what you believe. But don't call it science. And don't make me pay to teach that to the next generation of kids like that's part of science, because it's not. But the textbooks are constantly changing the meaning of the word. They say evolution has changed over time. I agree. I haven't. Now watch this. In other words, living things have changed over time. Well, wait, now hold on a minute. Are you going to skip over the first 4? Are we just going to assume that these happen because, you know, this is a major, serious jump in their theory. They don't have a coherent theory back to a beginning. Then they say, evolution is a change in species over time. Well, now they're right down